Hello and welcome to the sequel of Godzilla Destroy All Monsters. I'm CR and I really liked how this game advanced some qualities that I felt lacked a bit in its predecessor. There wasn't a whole lot that was changed, but we'll get to that later. There isn't a whole lot of story to this game, and weirdly even less than the first game, but I still enjoyed myself and didn't really expect all that much story in the first place. Let's start talking about some of the basics. This game, for the most part, plays exactly like the first game, but I'll get into how they changed in the pro section. Your basic moves are punching, kicking, grabbing, and two types of special moves. One by holding R1, and the other by quickly pressing it. Your grabs also differ depending on the button you press after you've grabbed your opponent. Your regular X is just chucking them, square gives them a good punch and then a throw. Finally, circle lets you slap them farther away with your tail. These differ between kaiju, but the effects are all the same. You can also use the grab to pick up buildings to toss at enemies to deal pretty substantial damage that I believe depends on the size of the building you throw. If you're knocked down, you can do a nice get-up attack as well. Throughout the levels, you are attempting to get a nice score, and you mostly get the same for defeating an enemy, but you can find G cells, which there are 5 of in each area, that will net you some extra points. You can also find health boost, special move energy that refills your gauge, and a super move that you can execute by pressing X and circle at the same time. The points you get can be used to unlock most of the characters, to buy extra stages, and buy some pretty sweet art of the kaiju. There are 3 types of multiplayer in this game: Versus, which is a one-on-one fight, Melee, which is a 4-person free-for-all, and Multiplayer, which uses a feature not many people know exists for the PS2, internet capabilities, and for obvious reasons I was not able to test this out. Some other modes are Challenge, where you are provided with a variety of tasks to do and are mostly just get high score time wasters. Not saying that they're bad or anything. And the last mode is Survival, which is just what it sounds like. You fight against monster after monster with health that gets replenished every couple fights or so, but this really doesn't earn you anything. I'll actually mention all the monsters you can play as here. Alright, you have Anguirus, Baragon, Destroya, Gigan, Godzilla 90s, Godzilla 2000, King Ghidorah, Mecha King Ghidorah, Kiryu called Mechagodzilla 3 in-game, Jet Jaguar, Mechagodzilla GVMG2 called Mechagodzilla 2 in-game, Megaguirus, Megalon, Mogura called Mogura 2 in-game, Mothra in larva form and regular, Orga, Rodan, and finally Space Godzilla. There are 4 more that are unplayable but at least make an appearance in-game: Batra, Abira, Millennian, and Meganula. There's really only one cutscene of story at the beginning of Action Mode and is the exact same for every character. The game is set 2 years after the first, and the Vortaak have made good on their promise of returning, though this alien race isn't that smart and tries pretty much the exact same thing as the first game. They use mind control to control every single kaiju on Earth. By happenstance, one of these monsters breaks free from control again and decides to fight back. Some understandably, and others for unknown reasons. If you beat the game on the hardest difficulty with Godzilla 2000, you get another cutscene where Godzilla ends up fighting Space Godzilla, creating a black hole that sucks him in, ruining the Vortaak's plan once again. Right off the bat, the couple extra selection of kaiju are great, and the additions are pretty damn fun to play as. The gameplay itself is a lot better as well, being slightly faster paced and way more responsive. The easy mode this time around is actually easy, and the last enemy ramps up the difficulty nicely, actually seeming like the final enemy. The newly added challenge mode also brings some interesting and fun little time wasters, and all the other modes are pretty serviceable as well. In most respects, this game heavily improved on its predecessor, which is always nice to see. The only thing that I didn't like was the forced replays of getting high scores in order to buy all the characters, as it did get pretty tedious, and I didn't even go all the way through with it, as I will admit I opted to use the cheats so I can unlock the different kaiju, so Maybe I didn't get the full-on experience or whatever, but it was honestly worth it just to play as Mohura and zoom around the stages. I think I'm going to be adding this section to future reviews that are on the shorter side if I find some extra interesting stuff, but we'll see. Some of the scrap monsters that were going to be used in the game are Biollante, Titanosaurus, Hedorah, a playable Batra, Varan, Super Mechagodzilla, Showa Mechagodzilla, and Rainbow Mothra. You may be wondering why then that Rainbow Mothra was on the cover of the game, and the only thing people can assume is that it was an art error. As per an interview with Simon Strange for Unleash, Toho said Rebirth of Mothra characters were considered in a separate series and weren't allowed to be in the game. Some scrap stages were a statue level, a Rodan railer, Las Vegas, and an unnamed ice level set in Antarctica. The reason why the story feels a little lackluster is that there was originally going to be a more detailed part where the Vortaak would infiltrate human society to steal the G-cells from earlier, as they are mentioned at the beginning of the story, but they only act as extra points in the actual game. There were even more cutscenes that ended up being scrapped due to time constraints with Atari rushing the game in order to release with Godzilla Final Wars in 2004, but that isn't all to blame though, as there were also licensing issues on some of the characters as well. I really wish this game didn't get rushed, because the game, even though it's really fun, seems like it would have been a lot more memorable and amazing if they would have just let them take their time and finish everything that they wanted, because you can very obviously notice that there was supposed to be more going on, as beating action mode you don't even get a cutscene for except with a specific character on a specific difficulty. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they hopefully advance upon in Godzilla Unleashed. Hope you enjoyed, and see you next video.